Hello everyone and welcome back to JDD TV. I'm your host Josh and we are back with our 5 takeaways episode from the match we saw between the Canadian men's national team and Morocco. Not a lot was on the line for Canada, but definitely some implications for Morocco. It was an interesting game. I'm here with my takeaways, so hopefully you guys are excited. And if you are, as always, be sure to drop a like, drop a sub, and let's get into it now. Now it's time to give a shout out to the legends over at OneFootball who are the sponsors for all the World Cup content on the channel. OneFootball will absolutely keep you up to date during the World Cup as you head to the app, search for your favorite national teams like Canada or Germany. Now go give them a follow and watch your homepage get populated with stories that you will care about as they happen. You can also track matches live in the app, check out starting 11s, watch videos from behind the scenes as well as interviews, highlights, and so much more, including the ability to watch full matches directly in the app from around the world. It's truly an incredible app to help you stay up to date with everything going on in the beautiful game. I personally use OneFootball every day to track Canadians playing abroad, and I highly recommend it for all of you watching. So click on the link in the description to download the OneFootball app. It helps creators like myself. Thank you all so much, everyone. Now let's get into the episode. Alright everyone, so that concludes the Canadian men's national team's 2022 World Cup journey. It was not the journey we were all expecting. I think there was a lot of hype leading into this World Cup, but at the end we went with 0 wins, 0 draws, and 3 losses, losing 2-1 against Morocco, which saw them top the group. So the group ended up finishing Morocco in first, Croatia in second, Belgium in third, and then Canada basement with no points. It was a tough result, and there was a lot of frustrations I had about this match. I mean, if you were in the watch-along, you would have saw Alex, Adam, and I kind of going over those, but if you weren't, this will be a nice little breakdown of that. So let's just get right into my first takeaway. And before the match even started, when I took one look at that starting 11, I was baffled. Absolutely baffled, because a big issue I saw in the Croatian match was that our midfield got overran and simply just was non-existent at times, especially going up against a world-class midfield like Croatia's. Hutchinson, just at his age, I mean, there just wasn't anything really in the tank. Eustaquio was obviously injured, got pulled off. Like, you had nothing. That two-man midfield was already light with 2 injured players, basically, or 2 fully not fit players. A 3-man midfield would have made more sense there. It didn't end up happening, and I thought with the lack of depth from that John Herman showed, there would have been maybe a bit of a change for this one, and we were all screaming for it. A 3-man midfield that, if Eustaquio was fit, it would have been him, but if not, then Samuel Piette at the 6, Jonathan Osorio, Ismail Kone as your 2 8s. It's nice, kind of balanced out. You got your attacking flair of Osorio and kind of Kone as well. They can kind of play that 8 system, just defensive responsibilities. Piette is that little bulldog with the 6, and that's what I was expecting. And instead, he goes with what was a 4-4-2, which saw basically Alphonso Davies play as a striker, which you guys know I'm not a big fan of. In the midfield, having Marc-Anthony Kaye, who has not really played at all for Canada lately because he's out of form, he's not playing well, and he's not really that 6 that can truly kind of help shape up that midfield, and you play him alongside an attacking 8 like Jonathan Osorio. It was very, very unbalanced, and it got exposed from times in the first half. This was a very stretched game. Morocco was having fun, basically just kind of bossing the midfield a little bit and using the width as they usually do, and it was just a very strange approach to this match that I didn't quite see. He had an A+ approach Herman did against Belgium. I love what he did. We didn't get the result. Croatia wasn't there. And then Morocco, I just thought you would have saw a Piette start, or even if it was a 2-man midfield, just a little bit more balance to try to create something out of this. Whether it's a 3-5-2, I just couldn't understand it. I had 2 other guys beside me trying to understand it, and no one really could figure it out. I mean, Alex, shout out to him, had a suggestion that the way that Canada played against the United States, where they had that kind of 2-man midfield with Osorio in there, was maybe he was trying to replicate, because United States played with their 4-3-3, so does Morocco, and they like those inverted wingers that kind of cut in. So that was the only, I guess, suggestion of where the starting 11 came up with. But that leads into my second takeaway, because they didn't do anything. I mean, you can justify a starting 11 if they can perform, but once this game got going, it was sluggish. It was uninspiring. There was just poor miscommunication. The passing was atrocious. It was like Canada knew that they were done and this game didn't matter. I expected them to fight for pride for that first ever World Cup point or potential first ever World Cup win. Maybe some more history that could be broken. I don't know what it was. I mean, we got our first ever own goal, so there's a little history right there. And I think it was the 100th goal as well. But the approach to the game was abysmal. It truthfully was. It was. The word was uninspiring, and everyone who's in the watch along was like, "Wow, this is going to be a long match." We got thumped by Croatia after a really impressive performance against Belgium. It would look really poor to go 0-3, which we did, but it'd look even worse to go 0-3, and then of course, you know, have another like couple of 4-1 losses. So the start was so poor that I just can't really put into words. The chat was even saying, is this one of the worst matches we've ever seen a John Herdman side play? And I think it was probably up there in that first half. And to kind of round out the negatives before I go into the positives here, the 5 takeaways, is my third takeaway. And it's just mental mistakes. And I talked about just the way that this team just didn't seem mentally prepared for the match, and Morocco was just kind of taking the game to them. But they did it to themselves, and I think that's what frustrated a lot of us. In that opening match, when John Herdman spends, you know, time getting this team prepared, he can't defend this. He can't make this from not happening. It was a poor back pass from Steven Vittoria, and then Milan Borjan, who looked like he was caught in two minds whether he wanted to punt the ball upfield or make a pass, and he ended up taking a touch into Ziyech, who just chipped it into the open net, and that kind of summed up, I think, Canada's last 2 games. I wouldn't say it summed up the whole tournament, but Canada's last 2 games. It was, I think, a poor tactical approach from Herdman, and I think the boys just simply did not look up for it. It was a really poor first half, and I think when I do the rewatch, you're going to learn a couple more things as well. But it was really hard to watch, and it was kind of like, okay, well, they don't care. They want to go home. But I'm going to get my 4th takeaway, and it was a reaction. Because I think that second half was a lot better. That first half, I said it was in a 4-4-2, but Alex and I were on stream trying to figure out, it was a scattered 4-4-2, if you could even call it that. There wasn't even true identity. No one was keeping shape. It was really, really poor to watch. They found their shape in the second half. It was a true 4-4-2. You saw them actually have those 2 banks. Davies and Kyle Langer were the 2 strikers, which then eventually became Davies and David. And Canada started demanding the ball a little bit more, started creating things. The midfield was still a little open, but all in all, you saw a little bit more out of Tajon Buchanan. You saw a little bit more out of Junior Hoilett. I thought Alistair Johnson had a pretty good game once again. Same with Adekubi, who eventually got what led to be the own goal, but it came from him. And Canada started growing into the match a little bit, which was really encouraging to see. They ended up getting that goal, making it 2-1. Atiba Hutchinson on his 101st cap could have scored, which would have just been absolutely perfect, but it just couldn't do it, just inches away. And Canada, I think, actually, despite a really poor performance, could have got something out of this result and could have got their first ever point. But in the end, Morocco ended up kind of closing up shop, got the result, and ended up topping the group. So big shout out to Morocco. I think they were, after seeing because we were kind of watching the Croatia and Belgium game alongside of it, but I'd say overall Morocco probably deserved to top this group, so big shout out to them. It was a decently fought fight in the second half, but overall it was just a really weird game, I guess is a way to put it. Just the lack of belief and the lack of interest in the first half to then kind of grow into the game and actually go for it, and seeing that urgency to try to create something of that, which is a good way to kind of tail off this tournament. And that leads into my 5th and final takeaway, was the fact that this tournament and this experience as a whole was a positivity. It was positive, and we have to take a look at it like that. We weren't expecting at the beginning to even be at this World Cup, so the fact that we turned it around and then went toe-to-toe with a Belgium, and I mean, despite playing terribly, not even having Stefan Eustáquio in the starting 11, could have got a result against Morocco. The Croatian one was a little bit up in the air in terms of performance, but there was a lot of positivity to take away from this. There's a lot of young players who are going to keep growing from this. I think Alphonso Davies, although I don't think he had the greatest of tournaments, had a couple of historical moments, and I think he'll be able to take this as a learning lesson and keep going forward and keep becoming the type of player that we expect him to be. And Canada, we just got our taste of what it's like to play on the world's biggest stage. A lot of us were hoping that, you know, that game against Morocco would have potentially been one where we could have fought for an opportunity, but Morocco shows that they've been to this dance before. A lot of people, including myself, weren't really looking at them to top the group, but they showed that at the international level, anything is possible. So it was a good lesson to take from Morocco, and showing that being here and continuing to be here, you can grow and learn from these opportunities and hopefully put in a run like Morocco is. They're going in the next match. They got a tough game against Spain, but there's no reason they can't think that they can go on and potentially go for a quarterfinal. And Canada will just take lessons here. They will keep building Nations League, hopefully get a lot of friendlies lined up, and do this dance again in 4 years' time in 2026 on home soil, which will be a lot of fun. Overall, it was an incredible experience. I hope you guys enjoyed all the content here on JJD TV and One Soccer. And let me know down in the comments, what was your biggest takeaway from this match, or even in the tournament in general, because it was a a huge experience for all of us, for the fans, for the team, for the country, and I can't wait to do it again 4 times a year in 4 years time. But for right now, the content will not stop. There will of course be content here on JDD TV and One Soccer following this national team, whether it's from the CPL level, MLS level, what they're doing abroad. So don't worry, Canadian soccer is not going anywhere. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this episode, and if you did, as always, be sure to drop a like, drop a sub, and we'll see you soon. Cheers, friends.